Okay, we're
All right,
recording.
Rob. Okay, cool. Hello, 80 of you. This is awesome. Just as I said earlier, a little bit earlier on, we might have new faces. I've invited a whole new set of folks to join our web users group who are site managers for websites on our campus. So if this is your first meeting, hello and welcome. And the agenda was in our meeting invite, so we do have quite a full agenda, and it's really all going to be about this new campus web initiative. We haven't officially branded it anything yet, but we're just going to kind of talk through what it is in case you didn't know. So we're going to kind of go all the way back to the beginning. What it is, what we've done so far towards it and in that project, where we're going, kind of like what the end result's going to be, you know, some guiding principles that we've written kind of to make sure that we're kind of always going back to those to make sure we're staying on track. And then we'll talk about what that means for you guys and how that will impact you. We'll talk some rough timelines, which are rough at this point. And then the rest of the time will be some Q&A. With that, let me, let's see. So what we're gonna do, let me get to that slideshow here. And let me share my screen.
And real quick, thanks to everyone who's already filled out our little survey that we sent out last week. It's really helpful. We were assigned kind of a really quick turnaround assessment of what user needs might be. And so we appreciate everyone taking the time to let us know. And that survey link is still good, by the way. If you want to fill out that survey today or during the meeting, that'd be great. The more answers, the better.
Yeah, and for those of you who are new, I didn't resend the survey to you. So if you're new, there's a link to the survey in the calendar invite. So you can click on that. It should take you 5 minutes. And we're okay if you want to multitask during this meeting and take 5 minutes to do that. That's fine too. Or wait, it's okay. All right, so what Rob and I are going to show you is really what we actually showed the Digital Marketing Communications Council. And that governance committee is comprised of the deans and the vice chancellors and the librarian and Rob, help me out.
Others. Campus leadership.
Campus leadership. So Rob and I, part of that committee, and every time we meet, we give them an update on this project. So we're showing you the slides that we showed them. So we're being super transparent here and just showing you what's going on. So
yeah, we should probably preface
Rob,
with that, right?
Yeah,
When the project started, we were asked to give regular updates and give regular updates to various groups on campus. So we thought that even though we've updated everyone here in the last meeting, we looked at the templates and stuff, we decided, hey, let's just show everybody everything that we're showing everyone else. And so most of what you're going to see today is what we're sharing when we go out and talk to campus leadership and other folks about how the project is going. So you're going to be getting this sort of glimpse into where the project stands and how we talk about it to other groups.
Yeah. So we'll take 1.5 minutes to just, in case you didn't know, we have been charged, Rob and I have been co-charged to, how do we summarize this in a minute, to redo the campus web presence and provide a unified platform in Drupal for that will have all of our new look and feel in there. Rob,
I'll sum it. I can do it. I can do it. Elevator pitch.
45 seconds. Go.
I'll do it in 30. We've been tasked with replacing the campus content management system of what we call WCMS with a new service that is similar, that uses Drupal instead of Cascade Server. That gives us a lot of technological advances that have come over the last few years. It puts us on an open source platform that I think gets regular, more frequent updates. And it gives us a lot of new features and new opportunities to enhance the campus web presence. And it's an opportunity to update and refine the design of the web presence. So it's a new look and new software under the hood.
Yeah. Okay, so then back to the slide. Good job, Rob. We have contracted with a vendor called Kwall, and they are currently, as we speak, building out our upstream, our custom upstream. It's an environment that we're going to be using to create sites out of, and it has our all of the templates and branding and design built into this upstream, so that when we hand off sites, all of that's kind of built in already. So they are almost done with that, and then they'll be handing that off to us for testing. So that would be the new Drupal theme and templates. We've also had contracted them to help us and to train us to use these new templates and themes and kind of go through all of that. And we've also contracted with Pantheon, and Pantheon's going to be our new vendor host that's going to host all of our websites. So we're not going to be hosting these at UCSC. They're being hosted in Pantheon. So we're getting that environment configured. We are getting access to that. We're getting things squared away, like how do we sign on using single sign-on and our gold password. Our team's going through multiple training sessions with them. So we're doing a lot of training and learning kind of in our teams right now. So the project team, so we're doing the planning and building kind of custom modules that we're going to need that are specific to what UCSC needs. We're defining roles. We're kind of building out test sites and kind of learning and practicing in those. And, you know, one of the first sites will be the main UCSC website. So there's content planning happening there. And then we're also meeting with pilot partners, and there's a handful of sites that are going to be moving along first with us as well. So we've been meeting with them. And so that's kind of what we've done so far. And I know there have been questions coming in. I don't know, Rob, if you've been peeking at those,
I think
or if there's anything we want to like pause for.
I put a link to the new design in the chat there. Somebody asked about that. Everything else is good.
So that's that link you can kind of click through the different templates and kind of see the new look and feel. We shared it at the last meeting, but if you weren't at the last one, this will be new for you. Okay, so I think that's what we've done so far. And so the next thing is really what we're building, kind of the end result. When we're done, well, we're never really done with the web, but you know, when the project's done, we're going to be provisioning websites that will allow you all to access and leverage the new designs, the branding, and the modules that will already be built in. There will be templates that are flexible enough for you to personalize the layout. So it's not kind of this is the page and this is how it looks, and you just put your content in. It's going to be more of a modular component-based layout where you can actually take this thing and put it on this part of the page, and this thing and put it on this part of the page. Because everybody has different communication needs for their site, so they might want to lay out their pages a little bit differently. So that's going to be flexible for you. And it's Drupal, it's centralized, so we'll be able to kind of manage the designs easily and then update everything all at once. You don't need to know how to do any, hard coding or programming or anything like that. Drupal is not as well, it's a little bit more complicated than Cascade, if that's what the system that you're using right now, Cascade WCMS. But it really in the fact that it's because it's more flexible and you can do a lot more different layouts and things. It'll take a little bit longer to learn, but it's not hard. And the thing with Drupal is that because it's open source, you can like Google a lot of stuff. So it's like, how do you do X, Y, Z? Kind of like WordPress, like, and there's, you know, tons of users in the world using it. So that's one benefit. But you know, we're not going to make you go Google everything. You know, we're going to provide all of you with the same kind of support and toolkits and training that we have in the past for other things. We're going to, of course, you guys can open tickets. We have this idea that we're going to do labs again, like we used to. We're remote, so we'll see how that goes. We're going to try to figure out how to do remote labs. But we'll give you documentation. We'll have a website, just like WCMS Help, that will show you all the different ways to do all the things that you need to know how to do. So that's coming as well. And then we're also going to be able to share content between sites, which we haven't been able to do before. And we're still trying to figure out what content should be shared between sites, and then make the tools to enable that sharing. So that's the kind of what we've done and where we're going. And I think, what do you think, Rob? Do you want to do some Q&A? I don't know what's come in. If open source, let's see.
Not much.
Okay. All right. So do you want to do the? I'll show the guiding principles and then.
Yeah, let's talk through those.
Yeah. Okay, hold on one second. Yes, let me open it up here. Sorry, let me escape that. Guiding. Okay, all right, so, sorry, hold please. There we go, screen share, that, go. Okay.
So with a project this big, it helps to have strong guiding principles, because throughout the project, questions will come up and how we respond to them needs to be consistent in order for us to create a service that's solid. There's so many unknowns when you're doing both the design and the software side of building websites. So Teresa and I and Bryn, who's also on the project team, have sat together and talked about how we will set up our decision-making process with these guiding principles. I'm a big fan of what's called Gall's Law, G-A-L-L. Gall's Law states that a complex project always began as a simple project that was then iterated on. So that's like principle number one, start small. What are we building? We're building a service to create websites, period. And so it needs to be able to do that first and foremost. It needs to be easy for our users, you all, to use, to get started with. So we start there, start with the simplest possible thing that works and then add to it. Teresa's team mostly uses Agile, and then we're kind of working on trying to do that with my team. But that is a methodology for doing kind of like that, starting simple, building on top of that. Second principle for us is to be transparent, which is what we're doing here today, sharing everything that we've done, everything that we've talked about, everything that we know to this point, and we'll continue to do so as the project continues. This third one is, probably should be first, but it is one of the most important ones that we have. And I'll state it first and then talk about it after, which is we're focusing on the visitors to your sites. The people who are going to come to your site from a Google search, from a Facebook link, from an email, from wherever, they're going to come. They may have never seen the site before. They may be coming to it for the first time. Maybe they Googled biology at UC Santa Cruz and they've just landed on the biology website. They didn't even come to the homepage. They didn't even get to the campus homepage. They just got right to your site somehow. So that experience and how they navigate your site find the content and the information that they're looking for, maybe contact you by filling out a form. All of that is the most important experience, the fundamental thing that we're working on here. And it's important to remember that, because we all, and Teresa and I have already been through this many, many times. You show somebody something and immediately they respond through their own lens. I don't like blue. That button's too big. Can you make the logo bigger? It needs to pop. All of those things are coming from that person's perspective, but we're really focusing on the non-UCSC person's experience, the unfamiliar person's experience, and what it's like for them to come to the website. So that drives a lot of decision making, where things are placed, what's prominent on a page, how sites are organized. All of that is driven by what we want the user experience to be. Second to that is your experience as the site manager. So that's really important too, because if it's hard to use, it's hard to update your site. We go through this with WCMS a little bit. If it's hard, you forget how to do something in between the times you have to do it, then you're less likely to want to go in and make those changes and update your site. So your experience is paramount as well. We want to make it easy. We want to make it, dare I say, fun. That's kind of a tall order to make updating websites fun, but we'll try, and that's what we're striving for, because I know that if it's an enjoyable experience or pleasant or just not painful, you're more likely to go in and make those changes. So those are our two users that we're focusing on for this project. Sorry, I went a little long on that one, but that one to me is a really important one.
Rob, is it the site visitor experience? Is that a link that I don't remember putting that in? Do you know what that is? And should we click on it? Is that something you want to share?
I don't know. I forget.
Okay, we'll just forget that it's there.
So click on it.
Click on it. Click on it.
We'll come back at the end and click on it. I don't want to get distracted. It's what, like, hover over it. What does it say?
Let's see. Let me get my mouse there. It's a
strategy doc. Okay, yeah. That's we'll share this as read only in the notes anyway, so everyone will be able to click on it. That is the strategy document that outlines the personas, the people that we're thinking of as site visitors. Next bullet. So we're obviously working toward an optimal information architecture. What is that? That is like how your site's organized. To me, the best site structure is the one where you can guess the URL of where you need to go. Those, to me, when I see a site like that that's organized like that, where you just delete part of the URL and then hit return, you're actually in that part of the site that you assume you'll be in. That kind of thing is what we're looking for, just a very intuitive experience. And it's I think sometimes people feel like, oh, that's too simple, we don't need a handhold or things like that. But I'm thinking of two audiences when we talk about an ideal site information architecture. One is folks who are not familiar with campus, and that can be somebody from out of the area, from out of the state, and from out of the country. So think about folks for whom English is not their first language. You want a site to be clear, obvious, and easy to navigate. And that's for our students who are coming from other places in America and outside of the country. So that's one reason. Another reason is one of the most important users of our sites is Google. Google shows up, indexes a site. If it's really clear, that's going to be good for SEO. That means you're going to show up in relevant search results, higher up in those relevant search results. So a good site information architecture and a good site structure has benefits that are less obvious than we may normally think. It also gives us an opportunity to reduce content, and I've spoken about that one over and over and over again. Independent assessments have shown that we have a lot of content and a lot of content that maybe doesn't need to be on the site. So part of the process that we will walk you through as we get closer to opening up this service is how to reduce content on your site or identify content that could be removed from the site. went long on that one too. Okay, two more. Governance. This is something that's always been a little bit sticky at UCSC, is governance of content. We generally don't tell you how much that to have on your site. We don't tell you you have to remove things. We don't run around, you know, and act like content police. We assume that your business needs dictate how your site is structured and how much content is there. And so we've never really had this kind of strong governance structure. We've had governance structures in place, but they've always been suggestive, and we're just trying to provide good guidance. But what we're hoping for with this service is partnerships and governance that not only provides solid leadership, but also is maybe a little bit more involved in where content lives, particularly with content that we consider authoritative content, which is like something that the entire campus uses in some way or another, where that's stored, how we share it, making sure that we have the ability to reach out to people and say, hey, we've noticed this on your site. Can we work with you to move it or change it or remove it, that kind of thing. So that's kind of my gentle way of saying, I hope we'll have some kind of structure for being more collaborative about how content gets and stays on the website. And this group is going to be fundamental to that. We see you all as partners here around content governance. And then the last thing is that our roles are all clear. We know where we are in the web infrastructure for campus, and that we're all working together. Did I get that one all right, Teresa?
Yeah, I think that's good. I think one of the next things that Rob and I are going to be working on is actually creating a website about this project, so that it's, because to date it's been through meetings and kind of, you know, he said, she said, and kind of getting spread around, which is fine, but we just don't have enough, like a one-stop shop where anyone on campus can go and say what's going on and all of that. So we're in the middle of, or not in the middle of, we just started. Who am I kidding? The middle, you know, just started kind of mapping out what that site's going to have. And really, this guiding principles document was our first step in figuring out, like, okay, well, what are our guiding principles for this project, which will then kind of be included in the website, and then we'll include, you know, meeting notes and presentations and kind of timelines and things like that that you all will be able to go and peek at any time and see. So that's kind of our next thing, is working on that communication out. This group, Web Users Group, it's a well-known group. It's well attended. We've got over 100 people in this one right now, and because you're site managers, and so really what we wanted to talk about now is like what this means for you. Why should you care about this project? Well, you gotta, because really what we're charged with is making an environment and a platform and our new look and feel, and roll it out to the campus and get everybody, especially everyone on Cascade, everyone on the current WCMS, will be moving their sites over to Drupal in an orderly fashion, right? So, and we are, the reason why we're sharing these guiding principles with you and kind of like what this service will have is where it's not a lift and shift. And I think we said this in our last meeting, but we're not going to just run a script that's taking your current site and popping it over into Drupal, and then you log in to Drupal and continue on with your day. This is actually going to be a whole website migration for you, where you're taking your existing site and you're doing that analysis. You're looking at your personas, you're looking at, you know, the content and the architecture of your site. You're kind of, you know, rethinking it, you're purging things, you're rewriting things, and then you're moving content over and building out a new site in Drupal. So, and like I said, we said this at our last meeting and maybe the one before that even, to say that there's nothing stopping you from starting that planning and that work now, because there will come a time when it's your turn to go. And also I want to say about that. So that's the work that you can start doing. The timelines are very rough at this point. Rob, what do we want to? Yeah, let's timelines. Like we had a timeline, and it kind of, well, you know, as UCSC is, timelines are, you know.
So the current timeline, and this is sort of the danger of talking about these things so early, is we're still working with both vendors to get stood up, you know, to get basic things implemented, to get basic technology in place. And that always has, it's never failed to have its unknown unknowns. Things you didn't plan to have become sticky problems. And so the current timeline looks something like this. From now till the end of the year, we're getting this initial system set up and in place, getting Drupal and configured, and getting sort of the cookie cutter built so that we can then start stamping out new sites. And we're thinking about that from now to the end of the year. And then sometime in January, being able to bring our pilot partners, there are about 5 of them, bring our pilot partners in to start testing, building sites with us. I don't know that they would be exactly building their sites, but they might be logging in with it to a site that we've created for them and playing around. And then at some point in the in the winter quarter, I think the pilot partners will start building websites. We do want to launch several sites at once. So sometime in the first half of 2021, get a group of sites launched. That includes the campus homepage, and whoever of our pilot partners are on the same timeline as us. So as a service available for others to build sites, I would probably say that it's not likely to happen before the end of the school year. So we're talking, you know, May or June. And at that point, we would have like a second batch of folks beyond our pilot partners, probably selected based on traffic, based on who their target audiences are, and that kind of thing, selected by this marketing and communications group consisting of deans and other members of campus leadership. And then we would bring them in. So as a complete full service available to everyone and launched, I'm gonna guess it's like right about the halfway point of 2021. And by the end of the year, this time next year, a lot of you will be building sites in it. So it's still a little ways off. I'm being squishy there because there are still unknowns that could crop up. And really, when it's a brand new thing, we just want to make sure that it's configured correctly. We don't want to make any mistakes early on that become large piles of technical debt later on. So there's a cautiousness to getting started, and then it ramps up as we get more confident in how it works and that it's working for everyone.
One of the things the pilot partners are going to help us with is getting that service ready for all y'all. And so, you know, because it's not, we just don't want to like, oh, here's your login, have a good time. It's more like, here is a package, you know, here's the whole service. Here is how you do what you need to do. Here's how you get help. Here's, you know, here's where the pilot partners got stuck. So we're giving you a little bit of extra, you know, information in that area. Here's some training resources and kind of a whole package. So it will be a full service for you. So you don't have to worry about that. You know, there's you know, some online Drupal trainings you can take to kind of just get familiar. They're free. You know, I'm actually going through one right now on YouTube. You know, just learning about Drupal and kind of how it works. But as site managers for your site, you will most likely be the site managers for your site in the new system. So kind of owning that and taking that on as like, okay, well, this is my role and this is what that's going to mean. We're also, going to be making sure that our environment, our templates and our themes and our sites are all accessible and 508 compliant with, and so we're going to be expanding the use of our tool on campus called Site Improve. And so that will be kind of integrated, and you'll be getting access to that tool and all of that. So it's becoming, I don't want to say this, as site managers, we're going to be asking you to kind of step up a little bit in that role and become a little bit more accountable and kind of responsible for your website. And just that's, so more information on that to come. I'm just giving you a little heads up that we'll be probably leaning on you a little bit more. And that's why we have this group, is to kind of create this environment, this community where we're learning from each other. We can give you guys, the best practices and that training and that information for you so that you can take it back and apply that to your website. We have been charged to improve our web presence. And so that's, you guys are the boots on the ground, the ones doing the work. So
I also realize it's very abstract the way we talk about it today. We have a vision, and it's, we're talking about these big looming things. It'll definitely, I think our intent is to be incremental, both with what we get to you and what we ask you to do. I don't want anyone to think that we're going to show up like May of 2021 and be like, all right, here are the keys. Your site gets shut off in October. Go. We're definitely not going to do that. We're trying to get as many resources as we can. Definitely the size of a site is going to dictate what we can, how much we help and how much we provide assistance. We're still trying to figure that out. Teresa and I, actually, the reason we sent out the survey is to sort of assess what people needed so that we could then take that to campus leadership and say, here's what we think people are going to need in order to migrate their sites, and see what we can do, recognizing that we're, of course, always in a constrained budget environment. But there's interest from campus leadership to know what we would need to provide to you to help with migrations and that kind of thing. So we're hoping that we can give you more firm answers on what kind of resources will be available in the months to come. But I promise that we're not just going to unleash a service on you and tell you that you have like 3 months to figure it all out. We'll provide as much assistance as we can, and we'll keep doing these updates. Where are we at, what's available, what can people see, so you're not in the dark.
Yeah, I haven't talked to Rob about this, but there might also be a need, like as we really are kind of rolling into this project full speed, that we meet more than once a quarter. Maybe it becomes kind of a little bit more frequent, and we'll gauge that and figure that out. Maybe there's a lot of updates, and we're like, we really can't wait 3 months to tell you all what's going on or what you need to know. So again, these are always voluntary to attend, but that might also happen as well. But I think, Rob Knight, that we got through our agenda in 37 minutes. So what we can do is we can go through some of the questions we got in the survey and answer those, and then we can go into our questions we're getting through chat, and then go through those, because this is always the fun part of the meeting. Rather than just hearing us talk, is that. So let me hold, please, get the survey results up. No, not that. This, yes, this. Okay. And then let me share. Hold on. Yes.
Oh, were you going to share your screen? I was just thinking we
was.
can just roll through it. Okay. I don't know.
Oh, well, I guess we don't have to share the screen. Okay. So you have them up, Rob, or do you want to?
I have them. Do you want to pull them up
Okay.
too, and we can just sort of tag team?
Totally. Okay, so
And we can also put some of these answers in the
yeah,
meeting notes too.
yeah. Got a couple questions about the Drupal tutorials that we would recommend. I am taking one right
We
now.
can,
I'm like halfway.
yeah, we can
I can
put that
chat a link.
link,
Yeah.
and we can put that one in. Do you want to put that in when you get the link? Put it in the notes column next to that question too.
I will. Yep.
And I'll go on to the next one. So like how much Drupal experience will you need in order to migrate successfully? I'm new to web design and Drupal. Our sincere hope is that the answer is not much. I mean, most people come in to UCSC completely unfamiliar with WCMS and can pick it up pretty quickly with the self-guided training. And then we're expecting it'll be the same, possibly a little bit easier with Drupal, because I think Drupal's a little easier, but that's just my opinion. But it'll be sort of the same, where you get your keys to a new site, and with whatever training we provide, you come up to speed pretty fast. You're still managing web content, and it's not a matter of knowing HTML or CSS or anything like that. It's more about managing your content and thinking about strategy of how your site's structured. Somebody says we will definitely need some help. We're working on that for sure. Will we have the ability to install our own modules and build custom ones? The answer there is it depends. By default, no. What we'll probably do is, if you're an existing Drupal user and your sites are already in Drupal, that's the case for arts, library, and School of Engineering. And we're probably going to work with you to see what you need. And if it exceeds the service, then we'll strategize on how to accommodate that. But a straight Drupal installation from this service is not going to be something that you can trick out and customize. And we're going to have a lot of sensible defaults that'll work for, I'm going to guess, not even 80-20, I would say 90-10 or 95-5. Most people will be fine with the default. But in the instance where it doesn't work out, of course, we'll try to accommodate that as best we can. Please record the meeting. Doing that. If you have a site that is not currently in WCMS, it's in something else. You don't have to go to WCMS in order to be in line for migrating to Drupal. The best thing I would say you could do right now is really just sit tight with wherever you're at, unless there's some profound reason that you need to move to WCMS before next summer. There's no need for you to do it in order just to be in line to migrate to Drupal. Once the service is available, it won't really matter where you're coming from. There isn't going to be any kind of push button automation that just kicks your site over into Drupal or anything like that. We really are asking for folks to audit their content and migrate it. I know some people have sites with like 10,000 pages. We'll figure that out. I'm not quite sure about that yet, but for most sites that are, a few hundred pages or less, it's okay if you're not in WCMS right now, and you don't have to be there in order to get ready for Drupal. When the time comes, you'll just be able to move from wherever you're at. So no need to worry about that. We know there are folks who use WordPress. There are folks using, I don't know, Weebly or whatever else, Squarespace. It's totally fine if you stay there. Will there be training videos and a manual like we have now? Yes. One way or another, we will point you to resources. Like Teresa said, Drupal is an open source tool that has been out in the world for a very long time. So there is a lot of stuff out there to learn Drupal already for free. So we'll probably be mishmashing what's available and then what's custom for us in providing documentation and support for in both ways. So there will be a lot of training. Yeah.
Yeah, I actually have that because one of the things that I loved to do was that training, the WCMS training. I did it for about 8 years, and I miss it. And I am like, oh, I kind of want to do it again. But we're all remote, so I don't know how we'll do that. So maybe we won't be remote by the time the service rolls out. I don't know, but either way, we're going to be doing some sort of like where myself or Rob or one of the team members actually kind of facilitates even something like this and say, okay, we're going to walk you through, you know, these things that you have to do to actually get your site built. So it'd be, that's the ideal situation. And that's what we're trying to define and roll out is that training and help for you. And it's actually something that I actually love. So kind of just want to skip all the other stuff and just start on that.
I'm scrolling down through other questions here. No one's been given access to Drupal yet. So if you were wondering where your login is, that it's not there yet. Again, that's coming latter part of the first half of 2021. When will we be informed of what Drupal offers? The design system link that I put in there earlier does have page layouts and things. You can kind of get a sense of how some content can be presented. The rest will be forthcoming once Teresa and I have a site of our own up, like she was talking about. That'll probably also give you a sense of what's possible. Most of that is still to come, though. Must every UCSC website migrate to Drupal? No. If you're in WCMS, yes. Because at some point we will flip the switch and shut off WCMS. Again, it's not going to be like next week or anything like that. There'll be a reasonable horizon for that. But WCMS sites will need to migrate to Drupal. It's going to be fun though, so it's okay.
Well, I'll say, yeah, like if you have been around for UCSC for any length of time, when we rolled out the current WCMS Cascade 10 years ago, it was one of those things where we built it and let's just build it and they will come. And we kind of got people just coming in. We did some strategic outreach and said, okay, you guys need to come in. So all the colleges, the academic, divisions and units and all of that. But it took years and years and years to get everybody in. That's not probably is not going to be how it is going to be. It's probably going to be more like we are, kind of get everything rolled out. We make it all available. And then they're actually, leadership might tell us, we want WCMS shut off by this date. And a few years out, but not 5, not 7. So it's not like you can just be like, oh, well, I'll just wait till we have time or we have resources. So we're not going to push you and like make you do it. It's more like it's going to happen. So, in the next few years, it's going to happen. So that's all I'll say about that. We're not going to just wait till you guys are ready, if that makes sense. It's more, we're ready, so you need to start getting ready.
Two more topics that come up here in the survey responses. One of them is around resources and what resources will be available. And I'm sorry we don't have a clearer answer for that yet. What we've talked about, and again, this is very preliminary, we've talked about having help with just the raw migration part of just copy, paste, maybe getting help from students there, being able to provide that. We've talked about what kind of external assistance we could get from vendors and stuff to do site migrations. Obviously, we're talking about what kind of training we'll provide. It's all on the table, and I want to be as reassuring as I can, knowing that we can't commit to anything because it's still too early. But as assuredly as I can say it, we know it's not easy. We Teresa and I both are veterans of this from WCMS. A site that's more than 50 to 100 pages is going to be a tedious lift from one place to another, and we definitely know that. So we're thinking about you for sure. We're not going to just shove you into a difficult process. It's just a little too early to be able to say, here's what it's exactly going to look like. So more clarity to come on that. And then last thing I saw in the spreadsheet here was sites with a lot of content, or just pages of lots of text, and or even PDFs and mixed media and all that different kind of content. One part of this process will be some kind of audit, around what are people using on the site, and what kind of content needs to be available, how it's structured. I can say, one, there'll be more ways to present stuff. So like right now you have WCMS, you just pick a page and it either has a left sidebar, a right sidebar, or it's just full width. And that's pretty much your choice, unless you're choosing a home page. In the news system, you'll have different ways of presenting that information on the page. Collapsible areas and call out boxes, things like that. So there will be additional ways to present information. One thing I would encourage everyone to think about, though, as you think about your site, is really about how it can all be more concise. What ways. It's really easy to put things like we do this a lot on the homepage and in the home environment, so I'm not calling out anyone in particular, but we have everyone loves their FAQ, let's put like a big pile of questions at the top of a page and then link to like 15 paragraphs of content below it. And that's one way to present information. It's also possible to maybe have less of that, maybe half of that content, or less verbose, or you're looking for ways to make a site much easier to take in both the information and the structure. And I know that in a legal environment, in a medical environment, sometimes you just have to be really verbose because there's reasons, and I totally understand that as well. And that's that's a reality that's going to exist no matter what we do. But I would encourage all of us, and I'm looking at myself here too, we have a big site with the campus homepage, of how we can convey all the information that we need to convey succinctly and clearly. And that's a challenge that we put on ourselves. And it'll be part of this process, part of the migration process. And we will, in the months to come, try to give you the tools to do that, to think about that, to have a process for doing that. Because we know that there's a ton of content on the UCSC websites. And so what we're hoping for is to be able to reduce that. I'm done pontificating on that.
No, I mean, I think it's good, because I'm sitting here thinking about, all the folks on this call and all the site managers, and kind of, it might feel like, oh my gosh, this is huge. And we're saying, get started now, there's no reason to. And then like, well, I don't know how to do that. And then, so one of the unicorn land ideas that Rob and I had is, part of that like package of like migrating your site is maybe we could create something, and when I say we, I mean Rob, his team, but that we could provide to folks, ahead of time, to say, okay, this project's happening, this is what you can do now, and actually kind of like, here's some personas, and here's how you think, think about your site audience and kind of like a walkthrough step-by-step guide on kind of doing that analysis on your audience, and then how do you what's the best way to lay out a site for, you know, Google to index it, and what's the, so best practices, things like that. I don't know if that's overkill or you're like, I'm not interested in that, but I know, like, if I were, well, you know, if I were you, I would be like, well, I don't even know where to start thinking about that. So maybe even part of our website that we're building, we can have a little section in there that just says, you know, tools to get started, and we kind of start populating that with some things to think about and best practices, and, you know, what makes a good website, and things that you can take back to your unit and say, here's what we're going to be doing, you know, next year. Here's what we could do to get started, and things like that. So I don't know if that resonates or, you know, sounds good or anything like that, but that's kind of something that I had in the back of my head. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Agree.
So, okay.
I know,
so,
and I guess what I wanted to say too is, like, these are all things that professionals get paid to do too. So I recognize, like, I feel this pressure all the time as the, you know, team that manages the homepage. Like, in a lot of other places, you would hire somebody whose only job it is to structure and organize the content of your website. Like, that's what they do. They go to conferences and they get paid to do that. So with that understanding that this is a professional task, like, I would say, don't feel like you're going to do it wrong. You know, we're all in this together. We're all kind of fumbling through making sure that we're presenting the UC Santa Cruz web presence in the best way possible. And that's going to vary based on your business needs. It's going to vary based on your content. Someone in the chat was mentioning research, publishing research on the website. That's going to be verbose. Like, there's a lot of words in published research. And so it's there, sites that have a lot of that kind of content are going to be more text-based. So I don't want to think that everyone just has to, like, slice and dice their site down to almost nothing, and that's the way Rob and Teresa want it. It's really about a process that takes into account what kind of content you have, how you need to present it, and who needs to see it, and how they navigate it. And we recognize that that's going to be kind of a messy process, and that's okay. You're muted, Teresa.
I'm always muted. No, just kidding. I should be muted more, actually. But we could probably get to some questions in the chat now. Let's scroll and scan here. Let's see what we've got. So someone asked if we're going to make the links to the Trello board and GitHub and all of that public. Yeah, actually, that's one of the things in our website we're going to be creating. That's the whole thing. Is this is transparent? It affects everybody, so we're just going to lay it out and, you know, do the best we can to make that information available and, you know, accessible for everyone. So you know, I'll put a little caveat that it's not going to be perfectly professional and amazing, but it'll be that it kind of, we're just speaking to you, and then, you know, in a colleague to colleague, you know, situation, that's going to be the tone of that communication. So how long will we have to move our sites to Drupal? Not 16 years.
We want this done. Teresa and I have a goal that this is done before we retire. I think we can squeak by.
Squeak it in there. No, no, I mean, we don't, that's the thing is, unless we hear otherwise from, you know, campus leadership and deans or vice chancellors of divisions or units that say, you know, we're going to be launching our new site by this date, that would be your own directive from your leadership, or unless we hear something from the chancellor that says, I want everybody moved over in 2.5 years, you know, without that kind of like end date mandate, there isn't anything, you know, specific there. I having gone through a couple hundred migrations with all of the sites on this call and more, I have seen the tendency for some site migrations to kind of languish, because there really isn't anybody either project managing it or really accountable or owning it as a project for the unit. And it's just not made a priority. So I think once you get the keys to the car and you're like, here's your new site environment, there will probably be some sort of like check-in where one of us is like, hey guys, how are you doing on your migration? You know, we gave you your, you know, keys 6 months ago and you haven't even logged in, you know, that sort of thing. I don't know. So when we ask you that question about like the project management, that's a pointed question to make it known that you will treat this like a project that will need project management and that kind of regular movement on it, and creating milestones and an actual end date and a deliverable for it. So, wow, that was a really long answer to that question. Wow, Rob, you and I are on a roll, man. We're just talking up a storm here. So that kind of answers that question.
I'm remaining quiet because otherwise I just talk too much. I'm answering a couple questions here that I've gotten privately as well, so feel free to carry on, Teresa.
Yes. Okay. So someone commented, sounds like a full-time job. What funding will be provided? Yeah, about that. No, we are surveying and we're getting information to give to leadership to say, here are what units are saying about this project and their resources and how much help they'll need with that, so that we can kind of set the groundwork for that. Like if leadership's saying we got to finish this in 2 years, you know, that's about 400 websites to move in 2 years. It's just not possible without extra money and extra resources. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the extra resources. You know, Rob's touched on it. Like, we're setting the stage to say we're gonna need it. Show us the money. So stay tuned. You know.
Teresa, what about the URL question? Will the URL stay the same that we have now, moving to Drupal?
As far as your site, yes, but you will be able to restructure content. So some URLs will change. I haven't really figured out quite how to manage that, but I'm guessing that, you know, if it makes sense to change an entire folder's name and it has a ton of content, there are always like wildcard redirects that we can put in place. So every request for this folder now goes to this folder. With a site, a giant site, a truly giant site like ITS, we would figure something out.
Are you saying ITS is truly giant?
Giant.
Oh my gosh, your site is so big.
I'm not saying that it might take longer to publish ITS than it does the news site, but it might take longer to publish ITS than it takes to publish the news site.
I'm just gonna cut everything out of it and start fresh.
Well, okay, so the URL question is really good, and we went through this 10 years ago, and so yeah, like Rob said, like the main like its.ucs.edu or history.ucs.edu, like that top level URL, that will stay what it will be. It's just as soon as you start restructuring or re-architecting the site inside of that kind of directory folder level, that's where things might change. And when we launch sites, so sites are getting built, they're ready, like, okay, we want to actually make the switch now. We've built the site, we're ready to launch. Part of that kind of launch process that we did back in the day was to say, okay, if your site's completely changed, we could put in a handful of like Rob said, like redirects to say, okay, what are the, I would always just tell people, go Google your site. What are the top 5 things that come up? And then we'll talk about maybe doing a redirect on that. So yeah, you're not gonna have all the same URLs in your whole site. That's just not gonna happen. Every page path URL being the same. So there will be some, restructuring and relinking people have to do. So just part of the world, the web.
In addition, sort of building on that a little bit, one thing that we haven't really talked about very much, but is certainly on the table is if your site's not that big and maybe it's an offshoot of another office or another site, and you think your site could merge into another site and 2 sites become 1 site, that's definitely something to consider too. If you don't, sites emerge from the org chart a lot, and then the org chart changes and suddenly the sites are separate and maybe they don't need to be. We've had that happen quite a few times over the years. Or a site is part of a marketing initiative that eventually becomes something else. If you're in charge of a site that you think could become part of another site, that's something to consider too, and definitely something to bring up once you start getting into this process. We're encouraging that as much as a straight migration. Sometimes sites come about for reasons that change, and over the years they have less and less of a reason to exist, and we recognize that, and consolidating sites is definitely on the table as well.
Okay, so there's a question here that says, are there certain types of pages or technologies that we should worry about interfering with the conversion? And I'm wondering if you mean kind of types of websites, like I'm gonna just throw it out there that like my.ucsc.edu will not go to Drupal. So those big, application heavy monolithic systems, we're not converting that to Drupal. At least Rob and I are not. It's not on our list. And so I don't know, Pete, if you had something specific that you were thinking about, you can chat it or just unmute yourself and chime in that. But for the most part, most sites are just HTML sites that the content can just be copy and pasted over into the new system. So that was a non-answer.
Will there be the ability to interact with web content programmatically for building things like web apps or dashboards? So we're given the move to Drupal, that's definitely a possibility now. We haven't necessarily talked about it, but I don't think that will be hard to do. So just to get super crazy technical, Drupal has what WordPress has, which is like a REST API kind of plugin thing. And I assume we'll have something like that on. So you will be able to access website content through some kind of programmatic interface. Done.
Okay, Rob, I don't know if you've seen any that you want to tackle here. One says we have a lot of content because we have a lot of research results. I don't know, did we already tackle this? Images are hosted separate through a database server and not on the WCMS, so that won't qualify as content that has to be reduced, ?
Yeah, I was kind of hitting that with my last, or a few answers ago, which was, yeah, not all content can be shrunk and stuff, and that's okay. I mean, just, like I said, it's all part of a process, and if a process results in someone saying, oh, this content needs to be here and there's a lot of it, then it's the way it goes. It's, you know, we just accept that.
Kind of access and administration, will that be similar to how we've done it in Cascade? Yeah, I mean, we're going to have site managers, administrators, which is all of you, and then users, so the permissions will be similar. There might actually even be more granular. Actually, no, am I wrong? Rob, am I wrong? Is there less granularity? Is there more? I can't remember.
I think there'll be more granularity. We'll have
Okay.
sensible defaults in place. So every site will have 1 or 2 site managers, and site managers kind of similar to WCMS. You'll be able to add additional users as needed, and they will all log in with their UCSC IDs and stuff. We're still working out like how granular we should be, and how much, you know, should there be, what kind of roles there should be, and what kind of permissions those roles have. But we have the capacity to be more granular than with WCMS. But the site manager role will have a lot of responsibility and a lot of permission, and then everyone with beneath that site manager role will have, you know, an appropriate level of permission to create and manage content. I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, and I think that's what some of like the pilot partners, like as the pilot partners are building their sites and they have different, you know, business needs and different teams and site content, they'll help us define like, oh, well, actually we need someone that can XYZ, but not ABC. Can we figure that out? And then we figure that out. So, you know, we don't have all the answers right now, but that's the role of those pilot partners. The ones that kind of go first-ish are the ones to help us iron out all those details. And I was going to say something else and I forgot. Sorry. Oh, good question. Will we be able to share content among the early sites? Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know. We don't know yet.
Depends on what content's on those sites.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, one of the things that we're building right away is we're building a module to share, you know, campus directory, course catalog, class schedule information, just like we have it in Cascade right now. So that's going to be the stuff it's shared with other systems. But now, like we said at the beginning, kind of we're trying to determine what content is appropriate to be shared between sites, and then figuring out a way to do that. So that's still on the list.
Yeah. To Veronica's comment here. So mostly the way we see it is everyone on this call is probably a site manager, or at least close to it. And I mean, in most cases, I recognize that for almost everyone, it's a secondary task. It's not what you were hired for. It's other duties as assigned, or it's part of, you know, it's lower on that little percentage thing in your job description. That's how we see most website web managers. So the resource question we know is a big one, because it's going to be coming, you know, we all may still be remote through 2021, fingers crossed that we're not, but that's a possibility. So yeah, we're definitely keen to try to get you answers as far as resources, because we know it's going to be a big ask.
I think her question too is really like, you know, everyone on this call are site managers. Like, what are your actual titles that you have right now? Are you department managers? Are you an administrative assistant? Are you a communication lead? Are you a, you know, like what, like how did you, like, I think that's a question too that people can chime in if they want in the chat or whatever. You can just say, this is what I do, and this is, you know, because I think that site manager role it was very organic in that how it came to be over the years, and so it's very broad swath of different people that are site managers. These are not, most of you guys are not web developers. You're not directors of digital marketing and communications. You are department managers. You're, you know, the advisor for this unit, and you have a, you know, a technical, you know, bent. And so they're like, hey, you like this stuff, can you do that? So it's definitely, you guys, if you guys wanted to start kind of chatting what your titles are in here, that might help people see, like, yeah, I'm an assistant 50%, I'm an analyst, I'm a coordinator, I'm a this. And it's just a percentage of your job that you're actually doing your web work. Very, very, very few units have 100% web person. Actually, I don't know of any, but you know.
And just out of curiosity, and maybe we can use reactions for this. Yeah, maybe thumbs up reaction if managing the website is actually in your job description.
Nope.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So that's yeah, so 15-ish of 90, where it's actually, you know, so,
Yeah,
and then probably you showed some savvy with technology,
right.
The rest of you, and just like, hey, oh, you're good with Word.
Or
here's
you
the website.
Replaced, yeah, or you were the new hire that replaced the person that was the website manager. So that just ended up like, oh, that last person was that, so that's you now. So congratulations. So, yeah. So look at everyone's. Yeah, there is so many different. Someone, yeah, other duties as assigned. Exactly right. Like, so
yeah.
What? Oh,
sorry, I thought I was muted. No, I just saw like other duties as assigned 5% of that person's job description, which,
yeah.
Sorry, I thought I was talking to myself. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
That is, so yes, I definitely just want to make that point really quick is we have been having that discussion, bringing this up quite a bit, which is to say, we can't just tell you you have to update your website because it's not your primary task. Teresa and I will say that until we are hoarse and are blue in the face. We've tried to make that point over and over and over again that it's not a primary role. And so we will continue to do that. I promise that it's something that we talk about as much as possible to try to boost that information and help get more resources. The results of the survey, yes, they're going to go to vice chancellors, and probably, I believe we were asked to do it because of a question from the chancellor. So yes, that will be, we're reporting on that in the next couple of days.
Mm-hmm. I just want to, so there were a lot of chat messages here, and I wanted to, I think we covered-ish most of them. Is there any that we missed that are kind of burning questions? You guys are also free to just unmute yourselves at this point and, you know, ask the question. I'm scrolling and scanning, and so.
Is there a redirect process?
No.
Yeah.
Awesome.
No.
Well, technically, yeah. So I mean, like, people ask for redirects, like that's a common ticket that we get. But as far as like for your site with the launch, not yet. We don't have an official one.
What Teresa said.
I'm Sue from Porter Kresge.
Hi, Sue.
Hi, Sue.
Yes. I've got a question. Is there a person on the initial pilot that represents the colleges? And if not, is there a way we could have the colleges have a group to kind of come up with a common design for the colleges and what is critical? I know we did that with WCMS, but for me, it would be very helpful if we kind of all came at it in the same way and our websites kind of were structured in the same way. And I know that's different from the rest of the UC sites. So
so as far as the pilot, like the first set of people, there isn't a college that we've that is in that very first set. Though I 100% agree with you, Sue, on getting a cohesive agreement from the colleges as a whole on kind of like how you want to architect your site.
We should bring that up.
But we should bring it up. I think it's definitely.
okay.
We should bring that up.
The colleges all have their own individual, like, themes and their, their needs to communicate. But there definitely is a need, I think, to kind of have a unified messaging. Yeah.
Well, and what has developed is that there's more universal access to, like, for academics, for the college lists and classes and whatever. Housing also can utilize the larger housing information site. And that's what I think is critical, is that we understand where those are and how to use them, so we're not duplicating.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a case for sharing content, that case for, like, here's an example of like a set of sites that has content that should all be shared and not individually piecemealed and told in a different way or a big different way. So. Yeah,
because Sue, you're also a veteran of the WCMS process. I could speak to the differences a little bit. So this pilot partner group is intended to be small, and also just kind of consisted of who's willing and ready as at the moment that we started the project. They're not, I wouldn't consider, like last time the pilot partners were sort of deciders in how a lot of things work. This pilot partner group is not like that, in that like their will is not going to be what becomes like the service itself. They're more just a good group of representative enough to get in there and help us get bugs fixed and give us that good initial feedback on this service. I anticipate that second group, whoever comes in after that, is really going to be the folks who help make decisions about how sites should be structured, but also the colleges is something I don't think we'd considered, where there is a batch of 10 sites that should probably be very similar in organization and structure. We hadn't really thought about that yet. So Teresa, I think we should write that down and make sure that that gets brought up with Van and the Marcomp's group.
Cool. Can we do that? Go to the store?
Okay, so I think Ronnie had a great actual comment here, and I actually wrote it down in my notes, using the kind of temporary redeployment program. That's something that we can bring up as resources, possibility. So I appreciate that comment. That's very
yes, definitely.
Very awesome. Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
That's why I love this group. You guys are awesome. So Chris had a good question. Any ideas, strategies, thoughts regarding the intra-campus, inter-unit business content versus the student and externally facing content? Kind of like an intranet versus the internet. That's a big topic. Where to even start with that? Yes, there's lots of thought and comments and about it, but the building an intranet is out of scope from this
Yeah.
project. However, no, I don't have an however. Never mind.
It's out of scope. Yeah.
It seems to me like our content has both. Right. So
Yeah.
so we've got a huge policy, internal, procedural component, way too much content. And we also have, we market academic jobs. So
What, Chris? Hey, this is Lisa Bono. Hi, good to see you. Do you know what we did recently? It was, we have a lot of internal information as well on the ITS public website. And so we've just been working over the summer to remove all that internal information. And we just created a simple Google site for private for ITS staff for all that information. So that's just one option. That's something that we've done. And I think Teresa, I mean, you could probably talk to this, but it's worked out, I think, well. It's
Google, a lot of folks are creating Google sites for their intranet stuff because we don't have an official, intranet, but we are a Google campus. So kind of by default, we have these abilities to create these Google sites that can be shared and password protected and locked down to varying levels of degrees and all of that. And you can make a pretty snazzy Google site. So there's really, like I said, there's lots of units that are actually moving towards that and taking content off their site that's really for their own staff and their own, staff to staff content. So
can I be the old curmudgeon? Just make sure that it's, and I can actually see the use case for when it is very clearly something internal to your team. And sometimes some content that feels internal is also helpful when you're recruiting. It gives people a sense of what it's like to work with you or work with your group. I would just make sure that remains public. And I know it's a fuzzy line, but obviously, like how someone gets keys to a building is not something that needs to be externally facing. But for something like, here's our process for, oh gosh, I'm not going to come up with a good example. Things that demonstrate the culture of your workplace, those can be valuable things for like when somebody's, looking for a job or applying for a job, they want to get a sense for what it's like to be in a place. So I don't have like hard and fast rules for that. I know there's a lot of push toward pulling really internal stuff off the public internet, and I totally understand that. As long as you're not taking away some of the things that might help people understand who you are and how you work and what it's like to be a part of your organization.
that wasn't curmudgeonly. That was good advice.
I know it's not popular. It's not a popular thing, but
yeah. I think it's a good thing to be thinking about though. Like if it's, I'm trying to think of a super internal, like just to your own staff. Lisa, what's an example? Like,
there's
like
all kinds of things.
Picnic that we had last week, kind of thing, and or like how to get like those kinds of,
like
I don't know.
What Rob said, it's all the internal stuff. It's the how to get keys, how to do reimbursements, all the employee resource stuff. We have so much internal information that we really needed to get off our ITS website. And this project is a really good time to rethink public versus internal. And then a Google site is a really just simple, tool to use that's supported under UC contract, under UC agreement to use for an intranet site. So, yeah.
That's a good example, like professional development.
Yeah.
If I was applying for a job at ITS, I'd be curious on what the professional development like information is. So that would be something that I would actually want to maybe keep that on the public side of the internet.
But there's also a hybrid model where you could have your intranet site be on a Google site, but you could only use Google security to secure some portions of it to make them only accessible internally. So you could still have a link on your public site that says this is internal stuff. And if there's stuff that doesn't need to be locked down, you could leave it available, but not be junking up your main public facing site with all that information. But still give people access, and then use the Google security to secure the parts that really you don't want to share with the world for important reasons.
That's a good idea.
And so we have time for one more question, which I saw come in. I think it's a good one, and I touched on it a little bit earlier, but it was about accessibility, and everything is going to get, things are going to get scanned and accessible, and make sure that's on the radar. Yes, so we are going to make sure that all of our templates and modules and all of the things that we roll out they all have been scanned for accessibility and meet our AA standards, so that we're in compliance that way. And then, like I said earlier, we're also going to be building in access. Don't know how. There's a plugin or a module related to Site Improve, which is a tool we have on campus already, paid for folks to look at the accessibility scoring of their site and go in and fix and tweak things that are not scoring well. So stay tuned for that. That's also one of those things as a site manager that you'll need to kind of take ownership of and understand a little bit more. So stay tuned. But so any last words? We're at time. Rob, any parting thoughts?
Okay. Thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. Your participation is valuable all the time, but particularly valuable right now as we take it in and synthesize it and try to build something that's going to be good for all of you to use. So thank you.
For sure. Yeah, and feel free to reach out if there's a question we didn't get to, or you just had some thoughts or things. Rob and I really want to be those ears and eyes for you, because we can take things up the chain to leadership as well. So we have recorded this, and we will do the magic, turn it into a YouTube video, and we'll send out that and other resources to you soon. So bye, everyone. Have a great afternoon, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.